misconduct. Trump tweeting this morning, quote, "The phony story in the failing New York Times is a total fabrication written by the same people as last discredited story on women. Watch." Several women have now come forward accusing Trump of making unwanted sexual advances. CNN is working to confirm those reports. The Trump campaign also denying allegations made by a People magazine writer who says back in 2005, while she was on assignment, this happened. Quote, "We, Donald Trump and she, walked into that room alone and Trump shut the door behind us. I turned around and within seconds he was pushing me against the wall and forcing his tongue down my throat. I was stunned." Trump also responding to that accusation, tweeting, quote, "Why didn't the writer of the 12-year-old article in People magazine mention the incident in her story at the time?" Because he says it did not happen. These allegations weighing heavily on the Trump campaign. His poll numbers are dropping across the country, putting once solidly red states back within the Democrats' grasp. That includes states like Utah, which has voted Republican in every election since 1968. Clinton is tied with Trump there, with third-party candidate Evan McMullin in a very close third. So let's talk about this with James Evans, who is chairman of the Utah Republican Party, and Peter Caroon, who is chairman of the Utah Democratic Party. Welcome to you both. So, James, good morning. James, you're the Republican guy. What do you think about this?
Well, I can give a general answer to all of this, is that this is a salaciousness in this presidential campaign. Clearly, there's a character lynching against Donald Trump. When I look at it's just disappointing all across the board, because no woman should have to suffer sexual assault, but also we must be cautious this close to an election when you start hearing allegations. I think I'm more interested, not more interested, but just as interested in wondering, does Hillary Clinton, is she willing to believe, or at least say that Juanita Broderick and Kathleen Willey and Paula Jones, do they deserve to be believed? So we need to have the same standard when we're talking about these sorts of accusations.
Okay, so Peter, do you think that's why conservative Republican Utah voters are gravitating toward other candidates besides the Republican nominee because of character assassination by the media?
Not at all. You know, Utah is one of the reddest of red states, and I'm the Democratic Party chair, so I know that. Utah is a state where family values matter. We have the most children per capita of any state in the nation, and our families are important to us. And when we hear somebody like Donald Trump coming out and saying these things about women, our state turns away. He does not represent Utah values. He doesn't represent, frankly, conservative values or democratic values, and we don't think he's going to be the candidate here in Utah. We think for the first time in over 50 years that Utah is going to turn blue.
Okay, so that would stun a lot of people, James. Perhaps one of the reasons conservative Utah voters are turning away from Mr. Trump is because it's Romney country, and Mitt Romney hasn't been so complimentary of Mr. Trump, and Mr. Trump has not been complimentary of Mr. Romney.
Well, that is true, but I just wanted to answer my colleague there. There is no way that Hillary Clinton's going to win Utah, so we can put that to rest. Yes, this has more to do with the interplay between within the Republican Party. You do have that dynamic between Donald Trump and Mitt Romney, but I keep taking you back to the larger environment where there is a double standard when you start hearing these sorts of allegations. And once again, I want to repeat over and over and over again, no woman deserves to be assaulted. I think women deserve to be believed, but we must do it in the same context where it seems as though if there's an accusation against Bill Clinton and that Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump, first of all, Utahns are pragmatic, but absolutely we're a family state, and that's why it's a Republican state. We're the party of family values. But I want to make this one last point, if I could, and I'm looking forward to the interview that you're going to have with Bill Clinton's illegitimate son, and ask Hillary Clinton if she willing to accept it.
No, come on. Oh, please. That's just rubbish. He does not have an illegitimate son. You have no proof of that.
How do you know this?
I said, just talking about people being
have him on the air.
You dropped that one
because
on
I'm making
television?
the point.
Oh, come on.
Because I'm making the point. You're ready to defend Hillary Clinton against that. That's his allegation, but yet you're accepting the.
You have a vision.
All right, WikiLeaks released some more stolen documents yesterday, just about 1,000 pages. The Clinton campaign is now fighting back. Let's head to Washington and check in with Joe Johns. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Carol. What appears to be a new installment of these stolen emails just posted by WikiLeaks within the last hour. Following the previous pattern, apparently more emails of Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta, and just reading through the first of them, like the others, there appear to be more of the inner workings of the campaign, including day-to-day communications. Our team is just getting started looking through them, and we'll be back to you when we know more about them. Of course, I think the significant thing you can say about these emails is the critics of Hillary Clinton, the opponents of Hillary Clinton, are asking the public to look at the content of the messages. The Hillary Clinton campaign is asking for the public to look at the fact that these emails were stolen from the campaign, and there may be some collusion with Russia, and they accuse the Trump campaign of essentially being in cahoots with a foreign government to try to destabilize the election. So we'll have more when we find out what's in the latest installment. Carol, back to you.
So the Clinton camp is fighting back by saying, Russia is behind this. It's working in concert with WikiLeaks, and that somebody very close to the Trump campaign is working with WikiLeaks.
Well, that's true, and the Clinton campaign has alleged that Roger Stone, who is a close ally of Donald Trump, has actually been in contact with WikiLeaks. He has said on the record that he has a back channel connection to WikiLeaks, but he's also denied that he knew anything about the release of these emails in advance. So there's some of this and some of that. The bottom line, though, is the Clinton campaign is trying to push the notion that the Trump campaign is somehow involved in all of this with Russia as an intermediate.
All right, Joe Johns reporting live for us from Washington this morning. Thank you. Right now, surgeons in New York City are hoping to pull off a miracle, separating a pair of twins who are conjoined at the head. Meet Jaden and Anais, the McDonald twins. CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta has been given exclusive access to the remarkable and rare journey. Their condition only occurs in 1 out of every 2.5 million births, and very soon, if it hasn't happened already, the boys will begin what's expected to be a 20-hour surgery to separate their shared brain tissue. Dr. Sanjay Gupta joins me now on what is likely to be a remarkable day. Hi, Sanjay.
Carol, it is a remarkable day, and I got to tell you, this is one of the perks of the job, right? Just next door is where this operation is happening. Very few people get to see this. Very few neurosurgeons get to see something like this, because as you mentioned, it is so rare. Dr. James Goodrich is the lead neurosurgeon next door, and he's widely considered one of the leading craniopagus neurosurgeons in the world. And what the craniopagus means, as you mentioned, Carol, are twins who are conjoined, connected at the head. I'm gonna just lean over and pull up this model here for a second. I want to show you something, Carol. They actually, it's amazing technology nowadays when you look at what is possible even before the operation starts. This is a lacquered model of the boys' heads and the blood vessels inside that are so critical. I'm going to show you just a little bit inside here. If you take a look, these are the blood vessels that are going to be so critical in terms of actually making this operation successful. So this is the challenge when you talk about up to a 20-hour operation. This is really what that entails. But Carol, also as you mentioned, look, it's the parents who've had to go through some remarkable decision-making and thinking about this and trying to figure out how to put this all together. Take a listen. Remarkable.
They're perfect. They are so funny, and they're happy. They're crazy. He's really bared the brunt of the burden, I would say. He's got breathing issues and feeding issues, and he has some vision issues, and in the beginning his hearing was off, and he's gone through heart failure. He's had seizures.
So Jaden and Anais, the twin boys born September of last year, They found out a routine ultrasound, Carol, that the boys, first they found that they were twins, and then they were in fact conjoined, and then it's been a whirlwind. This family from a small town in Illinois now moved here to the Bronx to seek out Dr. Goodrich and to undergo what, as I mentioned, is happening next door.
I can't wait to see the results, and what an amazing story. And thank you so much for the inside look, Dr. Gupta. Always appreciated. We'll be right back. The warship is targeted by 2 missiles in the Red Sea. According to the Pentagon, 3 radar sites believed to use the middle of the night back in 2014. The source says the girls were released because of high-level negotiations between the government and the terror group. 2 police officers are out of surgery and recovering after a gun battle in Boston. Officials say the officers, who are listed in critical condition, were responding to an apparent domestic disturbance that spiraled out of control. The suspect was shot and killed. Police say he had an assault rifle and a ballistic vest. Embattled Wells Fargo CEO John Stumpf is out. The company announcing he retired effective immediately. The move comes amid national uproar after regulators accused the bank of creating as many as 2 million fake bank and credit card accounts. A source telling CNN Stumpf made the decision to leave, which was welcomed by the board. Donald Trump, he said his lewd and sexually aggressive comments caught on tape were nothing more than locker room banter. How does that dismissive description sit with 2 iconic athletes? Let's bring in Coy Wire with their responses in today's Bleacher Report. Good morning, Coy.
Good morning, Carol. Tom Brady, LeBron James, 2 megastars who couldn't have completely different reactions about Donald Trump's response to those locker room comments. And first you have Tom Brady, a friend of Trump, though he's never publicly endorsed him, at a weekly press conference.
Tom, you have kids of your own. How would you respond if your kids heard Donald Trump's
what the young ones call ghosting? He's gone. Doesn't want to answer that question at all. Then you have LeBron James, a Hillary Clinton supporter, and he tackled that same exact question head on.
What does locker room talk to me? That's not what that guy said. We don't disrespect women in no shape or fashion in our locker rooms. That never comes up. You know, and I got a mother-in-law, a wife, a mom, and a daughter, and those conversations just don't go on in our locker room.
Thursday night football matchup. Who do you have? The defending Super Bowl champs, the Denver Broncos. They're going to San Diego to take on the Chargers, but the Broncos are going to be without their head coach, Gary Kubiak. He's going to miss the game with what they're calling a complex migraine condition. And on the field, the Broncos starting quarterback Trevor Siemian may or may not be back from his shoulder injury. Last week, his backup, rookie Paxton Lynch, was sacked 6 times against the Atlanta Falcons. That gave the Broncos their first loss of this season. They're going against the 1-4 Chargers, but those Chargers 4 losses only by an average of 3 points. We'll see how this one turns out. I think it's going to be a good one, Carol. All right, now, 19-year-old Austin Matthews making his NHL debut, scored 4 goals to start the season. And this was no fluke. This kid was a #1 overall draft pick in the NHL this year. But one of the most fascinating facets of the story is that this guy is from the desert of Arizona. And you can't just run outside and find some ice to skate on when you're growing up in the desert. What an outstanding night for Austin. 4 goals in a game. Last year's Stanley Cup MVP and likely future Hall of Famer Sid Crosby has never scored 4 goals in a game in his entire 11-year career. Austin Matthews making history and making mom proud. Carol, don't forget, tonight the Dodgers-Nationals Game 5, a winner go home at 8 Eastern. Winner has a date with the Cubs in the National League Championship Series. And tomorrow, the Blue Jays and Cleveland hooking up in the American League Championship Series on our sister station, TBS.
You know, I'm picking for the World Series. Cleveland, I think it's Cleveland years. They won, what, the basketball championship? I think they're going to win the World Series, the Indians.
Year of Cleveland for Carol. I like it.
Yeah, notice I didn't mention the Cleveland Browns because they're so awful this year. Yes, Coy Wire, many thanks to you. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Carol Costello at this hour with Berman and Baldwin after a break.
Bleacher Report Update is brought to you by Ford F-Series, official TNN breaking news.
It's a short while, Donald Trump will stand on a stage in West Palm Beach, Florida. The question is he standing on the precipice? How does he handle the flood of new accusations of unwanted, inappropriate kissing and touching? What will he say? Can he survive? Just a short time ago, he tweeted this: the phony story in the failing New York Times is a total fabrication written by same people as last discredited story on woman. Watch.
So 2 women told the New York Times that Trump touched them inappropriately and without their consent, one in 2005, the other more than 30 years ago. CNN has not been able to independently confirm their accounts. They spoke to the paper on the record, saying that they came forward after this moment in Sunday's debate. Watch this.
Just for the record, though, are you saying that what you said on that bus 11 years ago, that you did not actually kiss women without consent or grope women without consent?
I have great respect for women. Nobody has more respect for women than I do.
So for the record, you're saying you never did that?
I said things that, frankly, you hear these things are said, and I was embarrassed by it, but I have tremendous respect for women.
Have you ever done those
things?
things?
Have respect for me, and I will tell you, no, I have not.
No, I have not. That's the key there. And there's more. A People magazine writer now says that Trump physically forced himself on her at his Palm Beach estate back in 2005 while she was writing a story about his 1-year wedding anniversary to Melania Trump. Trump tweeted about that one as well. Here's what he said. Why didn't the writer of the 12-year-old article in People magazine mention the quote-unquote incident in her story? Because it did not happen, Trump says. That's all his tweets this morning are about. The senior editor of People magazine, Charlotte Triggs, she is here with us. We're going to be talking to her in actually just one moment. First, though, we want to get the details, more of the details on these latest allegations, all to surface overnight with CNN national politics reporter MJ Lee. MJ, bring our viewers up to speed, please.
Well, these are absolutely devastating allegations that are being made against Donald Trump just overnight. Just days after, as you mentioned, he specifically told Anderson Cooper on the debate stage that he never touched or kissed women without their consent. I want to walk through some of the allegations that were in this New York Times story. The first woman, her name is Jessica Leeds. She is now 74 years old. She says that more than 30 years ago, she was seated next to Donald Trump on the airplane and that Trump lifted his arm set and began to touch her. Take a listen to the disturbing way in which she describes that exchange.
His hands were all over me. He started encroaching on my space. And I hesitate to use this expression, but I'm going to. And that is, he was like an octopus. It was like he had 6 arms. He was all over the place. He started putting his hand up my skirt. And that was it.
The second woman in the New York Times story, her name is Crooks. She was a receptionist at a real estate company in Trump Tower, and she is alleging that in 2005, she bumped into Donald Trump outside of an elevator, and here's how the New York Times describes that encounter. They shook hands, but Mr. Trump would not let go, she said. Instead, he began kissing her cheeks. Then she said he kissed me directly on the mouth. Now, the bad news actually doesn't end there. We also heard from a former different kind of allegation. She says that she met Trump for the first time when she was 7 night. She says, as the first woman of color to win the title in almost a decade, like black people. So don't take it the wrong way. If he isn't extremely welcoming towards you, if he is, then you must be the type of black that he likes. Now, Donald Trump, of course, is rejecting these allegations in the New York Times story as well as in People magazine. That is not going to stop the controversy from swirling around, especially now the floodgates seem to have opened, and the Trump campaign, what they should be very concerned about right now is just wondering how many more shoes are going to drop today.
All right, MJ Lee, thanks so much. I want to bring in Charlotte Triggs from People magazine. Of course, it was a People magazine writer, Natasha Stoynoff, who also wrote overnight that in 2005, Donald Trump made unwanted advances on her. Charlotte, can you hear me right now?
Yes, hi, I'm sorry, we were having technical issues.
Okay, if you can hear me, that's great. Why don't you explain to me how Natasha Stoynoff came forward to you, came forward to the magazine with this story of what happened 11 years ago?
Having, ever actually acted upon the things he said, the forcibly kissing and groping women, she felt a moral obligation to come forward, and she actually wrote her essay for us detailing what did happen back in 2005, and, it's really a pretty damning account.
And she actually wrote her essay for us detailing what did happen back in 2005. And, you know, it's really a pretty damning account.
It is. I mean, she goes through it in her own words. I do want to know, what was the conversation within People magazine when Natasha came forward to you, when she wrote this account, about putting it out? How did those conversations go amongst the editors at the magazine?
Right. Well, this is not something that anybody took lightly. This is something very serious that we take, you know, extremely seriously. And, you know, what can I say? I don't want to get too much into the, you know, internal conversations and stuff like that, but, you know, we vetted it fully, and we absolutely stand by her.
So Donald Trump just tweeted, a short while ago, why didn't the writer of the 12-year-old article in People magazine mention the incident in her story? He says because it did not happen. Now, this tweet is unclear to me, because in the story that just came out overnight, she goes into great detail about what happened. Maybe he means in the initial story 12 years ago, but either way, you stand by this account, yes?
Yes, I mean, here's the thing. She, in the essay she wrote for us, she explains why she didn't talk about it at the time, because she didn't want to be exposed to the retaliation that she knew she was going to get from him. At the time, he was a hugely powerful TV star and business mogul, and, you know, she knew that if she were to come forward with unflattering allegations against him, that she would be in for it herself, and that he would retaliate against her. And that was not something she wanted to expose herself to. She wanted to just go about her professional life and continue her career and just, you know, go about her business without this affecting her life. And so she only told, you know, a trusted colleague and friend. She never brought it up the chain. And so, you know, this was not something that was ever discussed. She didn't want to kill the story because she didn't want to deal with the ramifications of that at the time.
So, Charlotte, I mean, one of the lines in here, and it's a deeply personal account, she says, we walked into a room alone, Trump shut the door behind us, I turned around, and within seconds he was pushing me against the wall and forcing his tongue down my throat. She ends the piece in her words, saying talk is talk, but it wasn't just talk in my case. It was very much action. When you read this, when you heard her tell you the account, what did you think?
You know, it's deeply upsetting to hear that this happened to someone, especially our trusted colleague, you know what I mean? And, you know, she really was very shaken up by this. She was terrified about the potential ramifications of it and the potential fallout. And, you know, everything else that she went through, you know, where he had, you know, she says that he waited for her at her massage appointment, and that as Melania was walking into the interview, he said to her, you know, we're going to have an affair, right? And I'll take you out to get a steak. You know, he really intimidated her just by sheer virtue of how casual he was about it, and that it didn't seem to affect him at all. And he did this as his wife, who was pregnant, was upstairs getting changed.
People magazine has covered Donald Trump for a long time, you know, before, during, and after this story came out, 2005. Have you heard other accounts like this in the years that you've been covering him?
You know, Donald Trump's attention to women's appearances is something that we've always, you know, been aware of. When I interviewed him myself, I, you know, saw that firsthand. But I don't think that anyone was aware of any such aggressive notions. Oh, he just remarked on my appearance when I came to interview him. But it was, you know, relatively benign, and it was something that, you know, we published in our story at the time. But, you know, any such aggressive details as what Natasha's describing in her story and what other women are coming forward to describe, these are things that are, you know, are new to us, as I think these women are feeling a moral obligation to come forward and tell their stories.
Charlotte, you talk about how Natasha feared the ramifications of her coming out. Donald Trump is now threatening to sue over allegations like this. Specifically, he's threatening the New York Times. Is People magazine concerned about legal jeopardy here?
We absolutely stand by our story, and we stand by Natasha.
And what did the Trump team tell you? There is a statement, I believe, from Hope Hicks in this article. What was their response, just so we have it out there?
Yeah, we went to the Trump team last night with the information that was going to be in the story, and they denied it, and they questioned why it hadn't been reported at the time. But as we discussed, you know, there were various reasons why the reporter didn't want to expose herself to this type of scrutiny and these types of, you know, this type of retaliation back in 2005.
Charlotte Trigg, senior editor for People magazine, thanks so much for joining us. Charlotte, we really appreciate it, as all of this is really happening overnight, and so much is happening just this morning. So, How does this shake out in just the next 20 plus days until the election? Let's discuss. Let's bring in CNN's political director, David Chalian. He's joining us now. So, David, not only do you have these new allegations coming out overnight, you also have Donald Trump. He's set to speak in the next 60 minutes for the first time since this has all come out. Yes, he's taken to his Twitter feed, but he's now going to actually be taking to a microphone. But he was lighting up Twitter this morning, attacking these accounts from these publications and these new accusations. I feel like we ask you the same question, but it's the question to ask. Where is the campaign right now?
Well, the campaign is with Donald Trump, flailing a bit here, and clearly knocked back on his heels, clearly on defense, and closing off paths to 270 electoral votes. That's where we are in the campaign today. That's not a projection of where we'll be 26 days from now. But listen, Kate and John, you look at the map as much as I do, if not more. Part of Donald Trump's mission to win the White House is trying to convert some Democratic-leaning territory into his corner. That's his path, because just winning the battleground states is not enough. So how do you do that? Well, you start appealing to suburban women in places like the collar counties around Philadelphia if you're serious about winning Pennsylvania. I can't imagine that these stories this week are going to help adding suburban women to Donald Trump's vote total. He is now mired in a place and has gone with a strategy to just play to the base and go scorched earth that I don't see how he's adding the voters in the places he needs to add them to get to the promised land.
Funny you should mention the collar counties of Philadelphia, David, because there's a new poll out from Bloomberg News, which has Hillary Clinton up 9 points in the state. But look at this. In the Philadelphia suburbs, she is up 28 points. That is a chasm right there. And college-educated whites, to a certain extent, are a big problem for the Trump campaign. In stories like this, it just has to make it very difficult to make up any ground.
There's no doubt. My God, 28 points. That's how Democrats win the state of Pennsylvania, as you know, by being competitive in those collar counties and driving up the vote in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. That's not being competitive. If you are trouncing in the counties, and Donald Trump has no suburban appeal there outside of Philadelphia, and I think you're right, John, specifically with college-educated whites, this becomes an improbable, impossible, just a math equation to win a state like that. And point to me the other state on the map. We have a new poll out of Michigan this morning that shows him down 11 points. We saw Wisconsin yesterday. He was down 7. What territory that is currently leaning Hillary Clinton's way is he actually making progress in? And I don't think, as we know, we've heard that the plan is to just go after Bill Clinton harder. I don't know that that is going to be the answer here if these allegations continue to come out day after day for the next 3.5 weeks.
And you get exactly to kind of the most basic question. You've already been kind of touching on it. But when you look at we're 26, 27, we're 20 plus days out, can you win without addition?
No, not if you're sitting at 37% nationally. Right. That's not enough. You need to add. And it's adding the voters in the right states that can actually alter the electorate for you. This is not to say that he does not have a fired up, enthusiastic base. I don't believe these allegations are going to take a single diehard Trump supporter away from him. What we have seen now time and again, there's a pattern here in the general election context. When these controversies erupt, some of the independent, Republican-leaning independents and more establishment Republicans who have sort of been holding their nose to support Trump, they're the first ones to flee. His number goes down. Then, let's say he has a debate performance where he really takes it to Hillary Clinton, even though he was not viewed the winner of that debate in our poll. Some Republicans felt a little heartened, like, okay, maybe we can make it through these final 4 weeks. They come back a little bit. His number goes up a little bit. That swing back and forth, losing some leaning Republicans and then getting them back, that's not adding to what you need actually to win the race.
And again, there is a problem that now exists because of the debate, because of what Donald Trump told Anderson Cooper when asked if he kissed or touched anyone unwantedly. He said, no, I never did that. And now you have story after story after story, if they're true, which people say disproves that. That is going to follow him in the days ahead. David Chalian, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, David.
Guys.
All right, new